which is often utilised by both the notorious and reputable to their own ends. Much of this illicit activity is conducted from the terminus systems, though that is not to say that the Citadel space is empty of such actions. Ask anyone where to go in the terminus to conduct business, and they'll often suggest starting at the end, at Omega. Hi all, Rick here, and today we're looking into the origins and function of the infamous station with no ruler and only one ruler. This station is located within the rose-coloured Omega Nebula in the terminus systems. Terminus means end of the line, termination of a journey, and it's at the galactic northmost edge of the Milky Way, a suitable location for a base named Omega. This nebula seems to be inspired by the real N17 Messier object of the same name that was discovered in 1745 by Philippe Lois de Jésus. However, estimates put the real Omega Nebula at only around 6,000 light years from Earth, not across the entire galaxy. So some artistic license has been taken, or this nebula is not supposed to be the same one. Which is fine, there are a lot of them out there. Within the blanket of this 11 light-year nebula lies the solar system Sagrabaric. Between the inner planet Urdak and the middle of Imorcan lies an asteroid belt rich in resources, and it is on one of these larger rocks that the Omega station is found. Within this area of space there orbits two mass relays, one of which is the infamous Death Trap, the Omega-4 relay. After exploring countless systems across the Milky Way, the Omega-4 relay was the end of the line, with many a brave or foolhardy scout travelling through its massless corridor, only to never return. It could be that for this reason, the system came to be known as Omega, the end. Of course, throughout the events of the game, we learn that this is because the relay terminates at the centre of the galaxy, where the gravitational forces and tightly packed debris create navigational hazards that can take the unprepared by surprise. On top of that, it is the location of the collector base which destroys or captures any surviving vessel. They make use of the Omega-4 relay with a specialised IFF that triggers the relay to become more accurate and safely drop them in a stable zone. Ships without this addition face poor odds of hitting this small safety margin. The station Omega was an element zero rich asteroid that had been paid as a mine by the Prothean mineral sometime between 68 to 50,000 years before the events of the first game. However, it proved to be too much of an effort to reach the deeper deposits, and the site was abandoned for easier targets. Millennia later, in the time of the current Citadel races, they came to the same conclusion when they discovered it. However, the asteroid was cracked open by the impact of another rock, and suddenly, interested parties descended on the now easily accessible EZO veins. Being so far from Citadel space, opportunistic thieves and the like also joined the gold rush to mine the wealth.
Personally, I know the Sparkle. It claims everything business and it won't clean out your wallet.
The station grew from there in towers that expanded from the natural rock face as space became premium. Mass effect field generators and emitters were constructed around the circumference of the rock to deflect any further collisions that could jeopardize the mining. This gave Omega its distinctive shape and a total length of 44.7 kilometers. Because the station was constructed by multiple factions and parties, no single unified government emerged, and to this day, it lacks one.
Alexa, what's 44.7 kilometers or miles?
44.7 kilometers is about 27.78 miles.
Alexa, thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
This continues the trend that Omega is a haven for those of ill intent, and the lawless land draws all sorts of nefarious individuals, even though the mines are still active. Internally, these sprawling corridors and open areas are divided up into districts in a grim reflection of the Citadel's wards. These include Zeta, Card, Doru, Fumi, Gozu, Kenzo, Kima, and Tui. In 2185, 7.8 million people lived on Omega, and not all are criminals. There are those who are genuinely there to mine on behalf of some private company or such. Order is imposed by those with power on Omega, and this means that it is usually the organised mercenary bands that gain control of the station. Currently, it is the pirate queen, Arietta Lowe, who holds the greatest influence in Omega, who has retained her ruthless hold on the station for over 200 years, since she dethroned the former crime lord, Patriarch, a name she later gave the defeated Krogan to insult him, as the word has no equivalent nor meaning in the saga. Arietta Lowe came to the station as an exotic dancer at Afterlife, a club, until she killed the owner and took over. From there she affiliated herself with Patriarch until she overthrew him too, and has ruled from there ever since, except for a brief time in 2186, where the organisation Cerberus invaded and commandeered Omega under the overview of General Oleg Petrovsky. This was done to secure Element Zero supplies for Cerberus operations and use it as a staging ground for further actions in the Terminus. With the help of Commander Shepard, Arietta Lowe returns to Omega and resumes control of the station, meeting up with the Talon mercenary group, which placed an emphasis on protecting the citizens of Omega. Together they were able to oust the Cerberus forces, and the Talons were made the de facto security force allied to Talon. The lawless nature of Omega means that many a petty crime is witnessed in its streets, while scams, deals, and illicit trade flow through its docks. This darker corner of the galaxy is also home for those that are lost or seeking to disappear, as many have learned that asking questions is dangerous, and while there is a scaffolding of a system in place, it is run by individuals who have little oversight. Of course, there are those in Omega who are not simply out to get you. There are many civilians who live in its expansive residential districts and seek to earn a living however they can, but often they too are drawn into its nefarious web. This leads to a large population of poor and destitute who scrounge for what little they can to eke out a living. These horrid living conditions were exacerbated in 2185 by a plague that was introduced to the residential districts by Vorcha under the direction of the Collectors. This plague was combated and contained by the mercenary squads, who were burning the bodies of the dead to try to keep it from spreading. With a lack of medical facilities, the only option was to quarantine the afflicted districts, while Mordin Solus, a morally flexible Solarian, was one of the few who tried to create a cure. Around this time too, the station also had a problem with a vigilante named Archangel who had begun to target and disrupt criminal affairs on the station. As it is the majority of business on Omega, his efforts were no small nuisance to the local mercenary groups who put aside their differences to tackle the threat. A hazy atmosphere permeates the open spaces of Omega, likely a byproduct of the mines and reactors, as well as the myriad of different cultures, which lends to the grimy ambience. The architecture can change from one level to the next, from the standard prefabricated styles common from the Citadel races to heavily industrialized zones. The station itself houses all the means to support a colony, including water treatment plants, environmental systems, though it seems that the majority of its food is imported by trade. There are numerous stores and businesses that flourish on Omega, and the docks are always busy with traffic. It has a centralized power system, although independent generators are commonly used. Most of this power comes from the several reactors buried deep within the mines, which support the environmental systems and Mass Effect fields. After Petrovsky's invasion, he installed greater defenses on Omega, bolstering its capabilities, and rerouted much of Omega's operations to the Afterlife Club, converting it into a command center of sorts. The station, unlike the Citadel, is completely a product of the current cycle of races, one outside of the Reaper's plan, and as such, in many ways, a safer place to be than the Citadel. This is why it became such a priority for Cerberus. Influenced as it was by Reaper minds, it was an outlier to their carefully cultivated extinction. As long as there are laws and societies, there will always be places like Omega, just on the fringes of civilization, where the lawless can prosper over the less fortunate. Then again, that happens within the confines of civilized space. It's just Omega is more open about it. Thanks for watching this episode of Mass Effect Lore, and these videos may be few and far between, but it serves as a nice break from the norm to keep me sane. So, I'll see you all next time. Thanks again, and goodbye.